I can finally do videos about P4 again. I can finally talk about my favorite dungeon of all time, Heaven. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, hey, wait, hold on. Why would the best dungeon be a dungeon that you don't even go to? Well, you wouldn't be wrong. It's not a dungeon you visit exactly, but let me explain. Heaven is the collective term for the first 9 floors of the Midnight Channel dungeon created by Namatame and Nanako Dojima. Each floor is aptly named Paradise from the first Paradise up to its top floor, 10th Paradise. And yeah, I know that it's not really fair to call Heaven a dungeon since it's less of a labyrinthine structure and more of a single open area with some aesthetic differences between each level. Still, it's one of the 2 collective terms used to refer to multiple floors at once, along with the Sea of Fire. So I think it's fair to call it a dungeon by extension. As with most other dungeons in the series, Heaven is actually based off of a location from the real world, with each level representing a different part of that place. Heaven is also a unique dungeon in that it is created by the suppressed emotions of 2 people instead of 1. However, the prominent side of Heaven is the reality within the Midnight Channel created by Nanako Dojima. After Dojima finds the second threatening letter, he detains the protagonist in the police station, leaving Nanako home alone. Nanako is soon kidnapped by Taro Namatame and thrown into the TV world via the television Namatame keeps in his delivery truck. In order to escape Dojima's pursuit, he follows Nanako into the Midnight Channel, believing it to be the sanctuary he's been using to save people throughout the game. And then he just so happens to arrive at the same paradise created by Namatame. After being thrown into the Midnight Channel, Nanako's hidden longing for her dead mother, Chisato Dojima, manifests itself as Heaven, though the dungeon is also colored by Namatame's Messiah complex. Inside the dungeon, Nanako's inner loneliness and attempts to be strong manifest themselves through her voice. But her voice is almost always drowned out by Namatame's desire to live peacefully with Mayumi Yamano and his belief that the Midnight Channel is a sanctuary against the harshness of reality. We hear this a few times during the boss battles. In contrast to the other Midnight Channel dungeons, Heaven bears the distinction of being the only dungeon sporting bright colors and dreamlike surroundings, as well as a melancholic vocal theme. The surroundings reflect the innocence within Nanako's heart, and perhaps the good intentions of Namatame's twisted nature. The name Heaven symbolizes Nanako's belief that her late mother ascended to heaven, as well as Namatame's personal delusions about the reality of the Midnight Channel, a safe place for those who appear on the Midnight Channel. While Nanako is detained in Heaven, the protagonist cannot advance any of the investigation team members' social links. Moreover, from this point onward in the original version of Persona 4, the Justice, Hierophant, and Hermit social links, if it is lower than rank 5 for the latter, will be unavailable to advance for the remainder of the game, although in Persona 4 Golden, the aforementioned social links will be unavailable to advance until after the New Year's Day event. Despite being generated from Nanako's feelings, she does not manifest a shadow self of any form. Instead, we fight Kunin no Sagiri, a manifestation of Namatame's Messiah complex, and later revealed to be an aspect of Izanami in Golden, who believes that his actions saved those he threw into the TV, not realizing the only thing that saved those he threw in is the actions of the protagonist's team. However, this only reinforced his self-image as a secret hero and savior of Inaba, and eventually the delusions break his mind, drawing in the shadows lurking inside Heaven, forming Kunino Sagiri. This is also the place where Margaret challenges the team to a fight in order to understand the true meaning of life. Upon her defeat, she admits that her younger sister once told her she wished to leave the Velvet Room in order to find a permanent solution to the death of a young man who sacrificed his soul to save humanity. Now, as I said before, Heaven is a very unique dungeon. Unlike all the other dungeons in the game, the levels are connected by stairs instead of the typical set of random winding corridors and staircases. Also, like the other Midnight Channel dungeons, It is full of platforms, holes, and blocks floating in mid-air. However, this dungeon is slightly different in that there are no enemies or puzzles. That's right. There are no shadow enemies in any of the levels, and nothing needs to be moved around to allow the party to proceed to the next floor. With the exception of the very last floor, everything the player has to interact with is aesthetic, including the elevator, which serves as the main method of advancing from one level to the next. Also, unlike the other Midnight Channel dungeons, Heaven does not have any shadow bosses. That's right. There are no shadow versions of Nanako, Namatame, or anyone else in the entire dungeon. Instead, the only things the protagonist and his friends have to fight are the manifestations of Namatame's warped psyche. Finally, Heaven's color scheme changes depending on the floor. From floors 1 to 3, the fog has a pale blue color, giving the feeling of dawn. Floors 4 to 6 have a bright, cheery yellow theme, giving it the feel of midday. Finally, in floors 7-9, the fog changes to orange, giving the final floors the glow of a sunset. The top floor has a bright midday-like scenery similar to floors 4-6, but when the party is able to battle against Margaret, the top floor changes to a night sky. But enough about the structure of the dungeon. Let's talk about the music. Just like the Sea of Fire, Heaven has background music with vocals. Heaven is one of the 2 dungeons in the game to have this, the other being Marukyu Striptease. The song is called Heaven, and it plays on floors 1 through 4. When reaching the 5th floor, the instrumental version plays, which is fitting given the change in tone between the 5th and 6th floor. And when the party reaches the 7th floor, a new vocal version of the song begins playing. This second vocal version is noticeably slower than the first, matching the setting sun aesthetic of the orange-hued floors. It is one of my favorite tracks in the entire soundtrack and one of my favorite vocal tracks in any Shin Megami Tensei game. The song perfectly encapsulates the events of this dungeon, especially with the lyrics talking about salvation, shining light, and sadness. And if you want to listen to the track, I'll leave it down below in the description. That's going to be all for this video. What did you guys think? How do you feel about Heaven? Is it your favorite part of Persona 4? Do you agree with me that it's the best dungeon in the game? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, I hope you can like and subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.